Hey, well, welcome along if you're joining us tonight. Thanks for coming along to Cleansed and Cured. I'm Brett Elliott, and I'll just show my face for a second so you know that I'm here live. Thanks for joining us. It's 7 o'clock in New Zealand, so if you're overseas, thanks for coming along. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to present you with a slideshow about how we can cleanse and cure ourselves. So basically, it's a bit of a toolkit that you can use at home. And I guess most of us have had the experience of going to the doctor and having blood tests and getting some kind of prescription, because this is the model, the worldwide accepted model with health systems around the world. And what we normally get is a prescription for some kind of medication from the doctor. And that's the normal process for most of us when we start to experience ill health. And then the other option is often surgery. So when the medications maybe have not been successful, or there's some kind of emergency health problem, then we end up in a operating situation and getting surgery. And so what we've got is a health system really that's based on visiting the doctor, getting prescribed medications, and then lastly, the last resort is surgery. So yeah, put your hand up if you've had that experience in life. I'm sure most of us have. One of our family members, I know I've had a few, parents, grandparents. Myself, I was in when I was younger. I went to the doctor and been prescribed a few things. Ended up having an operation suggested to me for my spine years ago. So this is the standard model that we're faced with. But what we're going to talk about tonight is the alternatives that we've got. And I guess when you start looking at alternatives, quite often what you'll do is you'll go around health stores, talk to health practitioners, and do the search for yourself. And this can be a little bit of a mind boggler as well when you start looking. There's so many products, so many health practitioners around, and who do you trust? So there can be a bit of a difficulty there. Finding a good health practitioner can be quite difficult. And you might end up going to one by referral, which is often the best way to get a good health practitioner. Herbalists and herbal medicine have been around for thousands of years, and I'm a medical herbalist myself. A little bit about me in a moment. So what I'm going to do tonight is share with you something that I've come to understand myself through my 20 years of practice as a medical herbalist, and a program that I've put together for my clients, because when I started out in practice, I found that the most difficult thing was getting a great result with the herbs that you've been trained to use and actually seeing it in practice. And so it took me 5 years or so to get to the point where I really had found what I believed was the ultimate way to start someone on a path of healing themselves. And so I'm going to share that with you tonight. And it's pure and simple. The foundation to what I do and the way I treat people is you've got to keep it simple. If it becomes complicated and difficult for them to understand, then it's very unlikely they're going to follow through and continue with that path of treatment or course of treatment, but also the path that you may have set for them, the course that you're setting them on long term. So it's got to be pure and simple. Now, I've been in practice 20 years in New Zealand. I've had 100,000 people go through my program over that time. And I have owned my own health stores and also went into health manufacturing of our own products as well. And I have a real passion for helping people to actually change the direction of their lives. So to set themselves on a path of change. And it's really not a matter of making huge, massive changes overnight, but rather incremental changes year by year. And that's really the way to achieve long-term health, is not to bite off more than you can chew and fall off the wagon. So we've reached 45 countries with these programs now, thanks to the internet and Google. People are finding us from all over the world. And I guess the reason I wanted to share that is because we're speaking from experience. We've got a little bit of a program that we're going to share with you towards the end of this video, and towards the end of this broadcast, I should say. And I'm going to give you also a gift so that you can get hold of our program at a hugely discounted rate, which we don't offer at any other time, other than during these live broadcasts. So what I'm going to share with you, what's actually causing the most common health conditions of our time, how we can reverse those health conditions, and how you can use food and herbs at home to reverse these problems, but also to stay on top long term. So firstly, what is the biggest health epidemic in the world? Now you might think of things like what's been around the world recently, like Ebola, some of the flu viruses, cholera, epidemics like that. They're third world epidemics. What I'm going to talk about tonight is the epidemic in the first world. So the wealthy society that we live in the West, the UK, the US, New Zealand, Australia, places like that, and Europe. And this epidemic is something quite surprising. And you may have had family members or friends or people you know that have had one of these things: a heart attack, a stroke, maybe cancer, diabetes. Now these are epidemics, but they're not the biggest epidemic in the world. These are actually what causes most common causes of death, I should say. So the leading causes of death are cancer, heart disease, stroke, and then lung diseases. So you can see the numbers there. I won't go into those in a lot of detail. Down the bottom you'll see diabetes and road injury, and then there's some infectious diseases there. But this is worldwide. So this is from the World Health Organization. And please, if you've got any questions as we're going through this, or you'd like any sort of research or backup information, just type in your questions. And my wife Sarah is on the Facebook broadcast, and she will answer them and give you links if you need them. So here we have it, the world's biggest health epidemic. It's called metabolic syndrome. And we just talked about the leading causes of death. Well, metabolic syndrome is the underlying pattern of symptoms that are the biggest risk factor for those leading causes of death. A quarter of the world's adults suffer from metabolic syndrome. This is incredible. This is a huge number. This is billions of people in the world that suffer from metabolic syndrome. And we know in New Zealand, it's on the news here, and you probably, if you're in the US or the UK, Europe, you probably have the same thing, that it's being announced by the media that we have a huge epidemic of obesity, a huge epidemic of type 2 diabetes, raised blood sugar. And blood pressure is the most common thing that people are medicated for, including blood sugar and cholesterol. So metabolic syndrome, it's also called metabolic disease, is the biggest epidemic in the world, and it's a combination of these four factors: cholesterol, blood sugar, blood pressure, and weight gain. And look around, you'll see up to 40 to 50% of the population are suffering with this. What are we doing about it? That's the question. And how can we reverse and stop it from happening to us? So just in summary, the leading causes of death: cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes. And a quarter of the world's adults suffering with metabolic syndrome, a combination of blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, and weight gain. That's the biggest epidemic in the world. So it's not being often talked about. That's not really out there in the media, and your doctor probably won't mention it to you. But can you see the connection between these things? The metabolic syndrome is underlying cause of the biggest causes of death. And this is the shocking fact. We're dying of things that are caused by metabolic disease, and a quarter of the world's adults are suffering with it. So it's a doomsday situation. We're heading for disaster if we keep going down this path. And what are we doing about it? We're medicating, we're providing prescription drugs like feeding lollies to children. People are going into the doctor's surgery, they're being overprescribed, they've been given medications for cholesterol and blood pressure and blood sugar when they should be fixing up the cause of the problem. These drugs are not fixing the cause. All they're doing is masking the symptoms, making people feel temporarily better, and continuing down the path of the disastrous lifestyles that we live. So I'm a little bit doom and gloom with the start of this presentation, and you might think it's a bit negative, but what you'll find is that these facts are surprisingly not out there in the public domain, and they should be. What happens when we get prescribed these drugs? Over time, the body becomes in a state of drug toxicity. One drug leads to a side effect for which another drug is prescribed, and then we end up with a combination of side effects that more drugs are needed for down the line. And so I've said in my clinic all the time, people come in with a combination of prescription drugs that they're trying to get off because they realise that drugs are poisoning them and killing them. It's not the solution. Sorry, I flipped over that ambulance. It's the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. It's not the way to approach health. We're not educating the public, and we're not dealing with health properly. Health is a state of peace. Now, there's a term in physiology when you study medicine called homeostasis. So homeostasis is a state of peace in the body, and it's found when everything's in balance. So when you've got a state of balance in the body, you've got peace, and that's called health. So it's an interesting concept. Health is really quite simply a state of balance and peace. And I think it's a bit of a revelation when it comes to how we're dealing with our health. It's not a complex issue. All we need to do is get things out of the way that are causing the imbalance. So what's causing the imbalance? How are we getting high blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, weight gain, all of those things? That's our body getting out of balance. How is that happening? I'd like to introduce you to a term, metabolic toxicity. And what this means is your body's metabolism has become interfered with and disrupted by toxins. And your metabolism is a combination of tens of thousands of chemical reactions that take place every second. So it's a very, very subtle, fine chemical balance that your body has to try and maintain to have a healthy metabolism. So going back to the term metabolic toxicity, this is when you introduce things into your body that interfere with the metabolism. So say for example, like you can see in this picture here, a bottle of soft drink, a packet of chips, that immediately throws up your blood fats and your blood sugars, and not to mention the chemicals that are added into these things. They can become toxic to the body. We all know about party drugs and other toxic substances like alcohol. But what I'm going to do is run you through a quick list of, we flipped past that, a quick list of the toxins, the main toxins that cause us to become sick and actually really cause this metabolic disease. So we've got processed foods, pharmaceuticals, pollutants in the environment, and we've got household chemicals as well. So in the supermarket, you've got a chemical factory. Thousands and thousands of products, hundreds of thousands of chemicals and additives. So what we have is a cocktail of processing and additives going into these foods. So the plastics, the preservatives, the flavorings, the colorings, the heat treatment, and all of the processing that goes through the factory. Now what you end up with is food that's full of additives and very, very low in actual raw food nutrition. So the supermarket is the worst place to get your food, to be honest. And as you can see here, processed sugars and fats, these are hugely toxic to the body over time. And so the consumption of these things over time will cause the liver to become a fatty liver. And when the liver becomes a fatty liver, it loses control of the metabolism. The liver has 250 jobs to do. And when it becomes overloaded, which it does, we end up with metabolism that's out of control. So processed sugars and fats. Then you've got processed meats. Now, processed meats are carcinogenic. That's been proven. And things like bacon, ham, salami, that kind of thing. But red meats in general are highly inflammatory and highly acidic and have this potential to cause cancer. And that's been proven. So again, if you want the links to the research, ask Sarah and she'll pop them in the chat box. So the acid that's formed by red meat consumption, and also too much cheese and too much protein in general, and alcohol and coffee and things like that, causes the body to dump calcium. And when your body dumps calcium from the bone matrix into the blood, into the circulation, to try and alkalize the body, you end up with osteoporosis. And acid also causes other things, so the gout, the reflux, the back pain, all of that type of thing. So I'm just going through the list here. These are simple toxic foods that we're talking about. Now, when your colon becomes overloaded with these foods, you end up harboring parasites and things that you can pick up from cats and dogs and pets and animals, and also children pick them up all the time because they're exposed into things that they shouldn't be into. So you get the bacterial, fungal, things like candida, worms, and so on. And here's just a quick list. I'm not going to pain over this, but these are the signs of food toxicity. So generally they're digestive problems, you'll find that you get bloating, gas, indigestion, wind, food intolerances, and lots of intestinal disturbances and pain. Also, the skin is very, very closely connected to the gut because it's a continuous membrane, your gut and your skin. So any skin problems, 99% of the time you'll find that once you deal with the digestive system, the skin clears up. Now we're just going to move on quickly to the other toxins. So the pharmaceutical drugs. Now these are highly toxic to the liver. So you end up with what they call drug-induced liver disease or liver damage and inflammation, which can end up causing hepatitis in the person. There's a huge number of people dying from drugs that are prescribed to them, and about 13% of the people in hospital are there because of a drug side effect. And that's a staggering number. So there's just a reminder about the liver. Your liver has to deal with all the food that you put into it. Every single piece of chemical nutrient that's in those foods has to go to your liver, and also any pharmaceuticals. So the liver becomes overloaded and we get liver damage. We all know the damage alcohol can do on its own. So we're just going to give you a couple of options tonight, really, is how we deal with these things. Now there's pollution. And just a quick mention on pollution. We all know about the waterways and the pollutants that are in the air from sprays and from industrial farming. But the staggering thing here that I noticed was the deaths caused by pollution are the same as the biggest killers: heart disease, stroke, lung disease and cancer. So there's a really strong correlation between the biggest killers and what pollution is doing to the population. And that's just on the outside. We've just talked about what we put into our bodies, but these are the things that are on the outside. Our waterways, we know that chlorine is damaging to the body. And then we've got our mercury that's in the fillings that was put in to people's teeth years ago. So if you've had mercury fillings, mercury will be affecting you. And then we've also got lead and cadmium, which are other heavy metals that are around in the environment, so in paints and sometimes in bore water. And these can cause lots of irritations as well. And lastly, we've got household chemicals. Now we know there's 145,000 registered chemicals, but there's actually 60 million chemicals that have been man-made in the world. And these are circulating around the world. Now we know these are carcinogens and they're endocrine disruptors. So they interfere with the body hormonally. And how many of these things are causing us cancer? So you can go organic, use natural, good old-fashioned methods around your home to clean, and things like makeup and deodorants and things like that. Go organic if you can, and go natural, and you'll avoid a lot of those things. And here's just a quick list of symptoms that you may experience if you're exposed to chemicals in your environment. Now most of these are respiratory, so your asthma, your coughs and colds, hay fever, and sinusitis. You'll get headaches as well, obviously, and you'll start feeling like this guy. And the reason I put a picture of this cat in the video is because the idea behind this is when you've not had enough time to detox, you'll wake up feeling like you've got a hangover. So if you wake up in the morning with a headache or this feeling of tiredness, it's more than likely that your body hasn't had the time it needs to detoxify. So it's really important that you wake up feeling refreshed. And if you don't, it's probably time to do some kind of cleanse on your body and to do some kind of a detox. And that's what we're going to talk about here. What is the solution? What is the thing that can turn all of this around and relieve us of all of these symptoms? And I'm going to share that with you now. It's really quite simple, and it's the process that I've been using with my patients over the last 20 years. And just before we go on to that, I want to remind you here, these are the things that have been known to cause cancer. And this is from the American Association of Cancer Research. The things that are identifiable and potentially cause cancer: tobacco, weight and obesity, diet, lack of exercise, occupation, so your job. And then you've got alcohol, radiation, prescription drugs, pollution. So all of these things are toxins in our environment. And here's a snapshot of all the toxins. It's too much to consider how many things are affecting our body and potentially causing not only metabolic disease, but underlying the long-term outcome of what is potentially going to kill us. And this is what stuns me. The system is not telling us this. The doctors are not telling us this. In fact, the mainstream medical system is poo-hooing the whole idea of detoxification. Why is that? I don't understand it at all. I think if people cottoned on to the idea, then the whole drug industry, the whole business of selling pharmaceuticals to the masses would stop. We wouldn't need them. We simply wouldn't need them if we realized and we avoided all of these toxins. They're not telling us that the food and the environment and the chemicals in our workplace and the additives and things and the drugs they're giving us are causing us to die. That the metabolic disease is underlying causes of death, and it's the food and the chemicals that we're taking in our diets that are causing us to suffer with this. The cholesterol, the high blood pressure, the weight gain. Those most common symptoms you saw, that list of irritating symptoms, digestive problems and skin problems and hay fever and sinus and all those allergies and food intolerances, they can all be dealt with. It's diet and pollution, and drugs don't deal with that. So the drugs is the wrong way to go, long term. So there's a choice to make here. Which path do we go down? Do we follow the system, the way they're teaching us to go, or do we make our own path and we decide for ourselves to take a different path? What I'm going to just show you now is what I would call the simplest solution to this problem. And you might be getting a little bit of the slide cut off on the left, but it's what's called Occam's razor. And it's a principle is the simplest answer is most often correct. And I think what we're doing is we're not seeing the forest for the trees. The system has become so complex, the medical system, the way we treat disease has become so complicated and so heavy that it's almost impossible for them to see what's actually causing us to be sick in the first place. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So the simplest thing in the world is a plant-based diet. And I'm not saying that everyone has to go 100% vegetarian or vegan or anything like that, but it has been proven, and it's been proven in many, many clinical studies, that plant-based diet reduced all of the symptoms of metabolic disease. The blood pressure, the cholesterol, the weight gain, the inflammation, the acid, all of those things that are underlying our health issues can be reduced by simply going on a plant-based diet. There's been many, many studies on this. Organic food. So not only organic food is chemical free, and it should be free of a lot of those toxins that irritate us, but they can have up to 10 times the nutritional value. And again, the studies are on our website if you want to look this up. Fasting and prayer and meditation. Very, very simple thing, but fasting alone has been shown to reduce these problems. Heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and brain diseases as well. So fasting can help the brain. That's a fascinating thing. And obviously prayer and meditation, that helps the brain as well. And that's been proven too. So as part of your detoxification approach, going on to vegetables, cleaning up your diet, a really good thing to do is explore those other areas, the mind-body connections, and help to detox yourself on those levels as well. So it's all about cleansing and becoming pure and connected and getting the rubbish out of the way so your body can do what it does naturally, which is heal itself. And the amazing thing I'd just like to share with you quickly is your body has an incredible power to heal itself, given the chance. So long as things are out of the way, the body has a natural response, which is to heal itself. So it's an amazing thing your body has. It's like that equilibrium, that balance, that homeostasis is what your body is always trying to achieve. So if there's something in the way pushing that balance out, your body can't do that. If you remove the substances and the overload that's going on, your body will spring back automatically into balance and health. And that's just a natural thing that will happen. You don't have to make an effort. All you've got to do is take the stuff out of the way. And that's what a detox is all about. So let's just have a quick look at how that works. Basically, the herbal detox involves going onto a diet of fruit and vegetables. So this is only for a couple of weeks. We don't have to do this permanently. It's a bit like taking your car for a service. You do it for a couple of weeks and it allows your body to heal itself rapidly and rebalance all of those imbalances that may be taking place. And you can have a dramatic change. You can go to your doctor and get your blood tests done and see a dramatic change in your blood tests. And that means if you are taking a prescription, you can probably come off it or greatly reduce it within those 2 weeks. And then by maintaining the fruit and vegetable diet afterwards, chances are you can either continue to reduce that medication or come off it long term. So what the foods and the herbs do, they cleanse your colon, they cleanse your liver, they help to remove the heavy metals from the body, so that we talked about. They will eliminate parasites, so those parasites will be knocked and eliminated out of the body. And we provide a recipe book and a diet plan which is going to give you lots of ideas on alkalizing food and food that's high in enzymes and fibre. So what that does is it greatly improves your digestive function. So by doing all these things in combination over 2 weeks, you can dramatically turn your health around and feel 100% better than you did. And so the herbs that are in the program, I'm just going to go briefly through these herbs. If you want to get information on the herbs, there's a link in the above this broadcast, above the post there, you'll see there's a link that says download the Detox user guide. So you can actually see in full detail how to go through this program, how to use these herbs, and what the food and the recipes are that you do alongside. So it's a combination of the food and the herbs that does the cleanse and it does the healing on your body. So the colonnade, that's the one that helps eliminate parasites. That's got some herbs in it like wormwood and black walnut and cloves that helps eliminate parasites, and it's got a little bit of cascara and psyllium to help stimulate your bowel. Then you've got the digestate, which is high in enzymes and peppermint and fennel and ginger and things that help soothe and relax your digestive system so you can cleanse and detox. Then you've got a liver cleanser, which is really high in milk thistle, and dandelion and golden seal, and it's also got cilantro and chlorella, which helps to get heavy metals out of your body. And lastly, the Simlax bulking fibre reduces cholesterol, but it also helps to, the fibre, extra fibre helps to cleanse your colon. You do this over 14 days, and you take the whole 480 capsules. So there's 120 per bottle, and we do a big dose, which is you take 10 of each a day. So it's a huge dose of herbs, and the reason we do that is you need the high dose of all these herbs to really get the body to be stimulated and to cleanse itself and to allow the healing progress to take place. And obviously the food is the other half of it. So lots of smoothies. We do the green smoothies and berry smoothies. This is a turmeric and lemon smoothie. And all these recipes are in the user guide, which that link is there for you to download. Stir-fried vegetables, so Chinese and chilies and curries, lots of soups. So tomato soup and pumpkin soup and things like that, lots of vegetables. Salads, this is a Thai carrot salad. And lots of fresh food. So really, at this time of year, coming into spring, is a good time to do a cleanse. And there is the list of all the symptoms that we spoke about earlier that can be relieved. So with our program, we do give a 100% money-back guarantee, which means if you think that you've been led up the garden path and the program wasn't up to what you expected, we do give a refund. So we have a 100% guarantee because we've seen so many people go through this program and be 100% satisfied. And so tonight, thanks for coming along and listening to me talk. I know it can be a bit heavy, but for that, we're going to give you this coupon, and that allows you to purchase the program at a 25% discount, which means you get $50 off. So it's normally $199. 25% coupon brings it down to $149. And again, if you look just above the broadcast, you'll see the link there that says visit the store or visit the shop, and you can click on that, and that'll give you the go straight to the Herbal Detox program where you can use that coupon. So just a big thank you for coming along and listening to us tonight. I hope it's been helpful, and I hope you've found some new information and perhaps realised what might be behind whatever problem you might be suffering with. And believe me, if you go down this path and you try this program, not only will you experience a lighter body and feel cleaner and lighter in yourself, you could potentially lose some weight, but also reconnect with that positivity and that light and that energy that's there for you. That's what it's all about, really. And if one thing I can suggest is when you do this, if you're considering doing it, is to make one change in your life. Now that might be cutting out some red meat or some processed food, or you might want to cut back on some alcohol or smoking or something like that. It's a great opportunity to make that change in your life. But what I do suggest is just try doing one thing. So this year, try doing one thing. And maybe if you try again in 6 months, do one more thing. And I found that's worked for me over the years, is just do one step at a time. And that way you're not putting yourself through a huge amount of stress. So thanks for coming along. I hope it's been helpful, and I hope Sarah's been able to help you with any questions you've had. And so just lastly, just to remind you, that coupon is there to get a $50 discount off the Herbal Detox program. So when you go through and purchase, go to checkout, you apply the coupon 05, that's 05 September, that's today's date, and 25 is the discount that you'll get, 25% off. So thanks for coming along. I hope to do this again sometime soon, but for now, that coupon is valid for 24 hours, so that'll only work in the next 24 hours after this broadcast. So thanks again, and talk to you soon. I'm signing out. Bye.